Welcome back to Good Morning LaLa, and we are live with Miss Bianca, the Spiritual Owl, today on Thought Thursday. Thank you so much for being here, Bianca.
Thank you so much for having me.
So wonderful to meet you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here with you all. I feel very, very blessed to have this opportunity. Thank you.
I feel wiser just being in your presence. How's that possible?
She is a world-renowned intuitive mindfulness expert, meditation expert. Where did this journey begin for you, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Well, no, absolutely, yeah. It's generational. My mother, who is here, Mama Al, today, is a very gifted medium. She doesn't practice, she never has. But I always, from a very young age, I had an affinity with animals. I was very intuitive. I had a connection to spirit. And I just I always saw the world in a very different way to a lot of other people. And then as I sort of got older, I think those gifts sort of expanded, and I was able to learn how to sort of utilize them more. And then when I was 21, I had a very serious and devastating accident, and I was left handicapped for about 10 to 15 years. Using a wheelchair, I had crutches, I had a mobility scooter that I used to razz around on. And I named and cried actually when I had to sell, and I was even bedridden for a period of time, needing round-the-clock care. And despite being told by many people that that was the journey that I was going to have to take, I guess that intuitive knowing inside knew that there was so much more ahead of me that I wanted to do and knew was possible. And then a few years ago, I had a very profound healing experience, which led me to follow my true spiritual calling to where I am now.
To the spiritual owl.
To the spiritual owl.
So what is the spiritual owl?
Well, I think the spiritual owl is many things to many different people. But I think the essence of the spiritual owl is definitely a message of love and compassion and peace and empathy and understanding and kindness.
We would love to clone you because we want more of that in the world.
Yes.
What would you say is at or was at the very core essence of your healing?
A lot of people ask me that question, and I'm always very mindful to my master. Well, I call her my master. She'd probably have grievance with me saying that, with my one lady now who's one of the most profound healers in the world and a very dear friend of mine. We worked in many ways together with energy, very much with the Earth's energy. I think that's a very sacred experience, and one that I would rather leave her to speak about probably than me. But it involved many different elements, and all ones that I incorporate into a discipline of practice now in my daily way of being. And it's really interesting because people often, you hear the word spirituality so much, and people will refer to what their definition of spiritual is. My definition of spirituality really is, and I believe that it translates through most practices, is, as I just said, love, compassion, peace, kindness, sleep, breathe, living that way.
I love that on your website it said to let the gift of kindness
Absolutely.
be your daily practice.
I think that if we look at the world today and everything that's happening on both a planetary and humanitarian level, I think that the one thing the world needs more than anything right now is kindness. And I think that it's something that we can incorporate into every aspect of our lives on a daily basis.
Including being kind to ourselves,
Including
right?
being kind to ourselves, including, I very much believe in a oneness with all. I don't believe in any separation between the earth, between the animals, and between us. I believe that we are all one. And that gives great perspective. And I think if you're able to have that perspective, you're able to have compassion for each of those things. And you see the world in a very, very different way. But yes, kindness is something that we need to give to ourselves, and something that we need to implement with others.
Right. So question for you, because obviously you're an intuitive.
Yes.
You're very in tune and probably feel a lot of energies everywhere.
I do.
So, not everybody is as evolved as you
Absolutely.
could you. So how do you deal with having people come into your life as friends, like the topic of today? Really, how do you pick your inner circle? Because especially for someone like you, and I've experienced that, where we're trying to get our, stay in that highest consciousness, stay as pure as possible, and you can't help when you're in communication or in a friendship, their consciousness mingles with yours. How do you deal with picking the people in your life?
Well, I think that a lot of mindfulness comes into play with that. I think you just, you said, you obviously, my evolution spiritually has been the journey that it has, but I always have to be mindful that others on their journeys, we all have journeys to take. Very wise old teaching will tell you that we're all teachers and we're all students.
Of course,
I very much believe in that. So I think when you come into interact with people, you have to be, sorry, I keep going back to these kind of principles of non-judgment, of speaking one's truth, and all of those ways of being. I never judge anybody. I always just listen to what people have to say, and are very mindful, as I said, of their journeys. I think with my inner circle of people, I'm very aware of the impact that other people's energies can have on you. And I think it's really important that you're able to listen and have understanding, but that you don't always own that energy. You know, you have to very much keep people will talk about kind of boundaries between yourself and others, and how you manage that. You know, I work a lot with people on that in my practice, about sort of being able to be present with people and listen and understand and be a part of that journey, but not own that journey.
But that's almost like when you're in your counseling. That's different than having people that are really in your inner circle.
In a sense of my friends and people who I journey with. I would say that I journey with those people in exactly the same way.
Okay.
I think, as you said, the love for yourself is the highest love of all. A very wise teaching that I once had was, if something is no longer serving your higher purpose, disengage. Obviously, when it's loved ones that are around us, we can't do that, but we can disengage from certain behavioral patterns, or the certain ways if people are engaging in ways that we aren't kind of believing is for one's higher self, then we can disengage from that but still retain friendship. And again, it comes back to a practice of mindfulness. Yeah.
I know you want to vote them off the island sometimes.
Well, there may be people that come into your life that you really feel that you're no longer able to journey with. And the other thing is, I don't place any more value or any less value. Sometimes people come in for a day or a week or a month and a year.
A reason, a season, or a life.
Yeah, and the impact can be just as great if you meet somebody. You know, you often hear people say that they had an encounter with somebody and it changed their life in a day. It doesn't necessarily mean that those people are always going to kind of journey with us. It means that they've been brought in for that particular time. There's no greater or less value. It's just about the journey. But then sometimes you have longer relationships with people over longer periods of time.
You've brought up the principle of mindfulness. How
Yes.
would you define mindfulness?
Well, again, I think that there'll be many different explanations for what mindfulness is, and especially in the modern day that we're living in.
But you, as
Yeah.
Bianca, the spiritual owl,
What I think there is.
Yeah.
Well, again, I go back to those core values. I think mindfulness is about, at every moment in one's life, being mindful about the actions that you're displaying, the way that you're choosing to journey, whether it's in business, whether it's in friendship, whether it's in relationships. Is that of the greater good? Is that from a place of love and kindness and compassion and all of those kind of elements?
How would a person flip that switch, though? Because I think so many times people assume that they're doing something for the greater good, when really they're acting out of fear, not out of love.
That's a very good question. I mean, I believe that there are daily practices that one can start to journey with. We talked about meditation earlier on. I think that's a wonderful way to really quiet and still one's mind. We live in such a busy world where there's such an information overload. And also there's a lot of information coming at us that isn't our own. You know, it's kind of things that we've been told we should do or shouldn't do, or this is what this is, or this is what this is. And the only way that we're able to really connect with our truth, I call it our own GPS, our own satellite navigation system, is really to quiet and still that mind. And when we do that, that's why wise masters say if you can still your mind for 1 second, that's enlightenment, because then we connect with our truth. And when we're connected with our truth, then that gives us the ability to be able to have clarity. So if you're making decisions, you want them to be clear.
That's true. A lot of times, though, I've prayed and asked for clarity, and I didn't like the clarity I got. Let's be honest. And also, there's this thing where I'm trying to understand whether I'm making an assumption because it's what I want, or it's really what my intuition is guiding me to.
Well, that's really interesting, because I do something called the head-heart exercise with people, where I'll ask them. Well, we could do it now if you
Let's
guys
do it.
are open to it. Okay, so your gut and intuition, is it something that you feel, or is it something you think?
Feel.
You feel. And where do you feel? Oh, Jasmine?
I suppose the correct answer is feel, but I don't always associate that.
Well, and this is my point about what I'm about to share. So, because people often have conflict. Am I thinking? Am I feeling? I'm not sure, because the kind of one will happen and then this will jump in.
Yeah.
The thought. So let's go with the fact that it's something we feel, and where do we feel it?
In our solar plexus.
Okay. Yeah. People normally say sort of here, your gut, solar plexus,
What is a solar plex?
your heart.
It's
solar
kind of
plexus
between. It's kind of like
chakra.
where
Under your
you're.
diaphragm band?
Yeah, like
This is your
right.
emotional core center.
You know what?
Yeah.
I never knew that. I used to think I had pancreatitis. And
Turns out it was intuition.
I ended up in the emergency room.
comedian.
Because it hurts so badly.
We have to separate the physical from the spiritual. I'm talking about energy here. So that may be something physical. That may be something physical. Always deal with things that you need to.
Okay.
Physical.
I'd say it's a rule.
That's just a little gas. Yeah,
Yes.
which is a little bit different than
No,
the
they
gas.
told me it was stress.
Yeah, it's a general rule. I would imagine that intuition shouldn't hurt.
Oh,
Correct?
okay.
Or am I wrong?
But I think there might be something
hurt?
there when something's blocked, then it might come out as a pain.
Well,
right?
yeah, I
So,
mean, I'm a huge believer that the emotional manifests as the physical as well. So that's a
Yeah.
whole other probably. There's a whole other question.
So right
So
here
gut
in my
intuition.
gut intuition, my
Or
solar
your heart
plexus.
chakra. People will say that they normally feel.
in between those
Yeah.
two.
That's why
Yeah.
sometimes my chest feels so heavy.
Well, that could be for many reasons, my lovely.
My heart chakra.
Many reasons. So, okay, and our thoughts, are they something we think or feel?
They just are.
Think.
And remember, this is how I see things. So I believe our thoughts are something that we think. When does your gut and intuition ever let you down?
Never.
Never.
Never. When do your thoughts let you down?
All the time.
Every thought is a lie. on some level.
Never.
You don't think your thoughts ever let you down?
Never. They've only had me grow.
Okay. So normally the answer that I will receive is that people's thoughts very often will not be as consistently right as their gut and intuition. And then when I ask people how many decisions a day they make from their gut and intuition, how many decisions do you make from your gut and intuition?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Don't know. I try to make as many as possible.
Okay,
But I don't track
that's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
And how many do you make from your thoughts?
Too many.
So the theory of the way I see this is people will normally say to me that their gut and intuition never lets them down. Their thoughts let them down frequently, but they choose to listen to their thoughts over their gut and intuition. If you give any scenario, it would be like going to a car dealership and somebody saying, you know, we've got this great car, it's never going to break down, it's going to last you for life, it's going to be fantastic. We've got this other car, as soon as you drive it off the forecourt, it's going to just stop. And you go, I'll take that one. And I believe it's really because we've kind of lost connection with here. When we're very young, sort of, you know, if you watch children play, they're very, they're not thinking about where somebody's from or what they do or what their net worth is. They're just kind of very much in the moment. And as they get older, you get, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, this is what failure is, this is what success is, this is what this is, this is what this is. And very often our minds become so busy with that we lose connection with here, which, as I said, is what I believe our truth and our own GPS is, which is what you guys said to me, you know, this never lets me down. So meditation is a great way to kind of still and quiet and then be able to connect with here. And that's how you're able to differentiate what the two is. And I'll work with people where I'll have them kind of journal and be very conscious about decisions that they're making from here, because then it becomes a practice, you know, it's a daily practice, and what decisions they're making from here and which outcome serves them best. Usually it'll be the one that comes from here, and then they'll begin to make more decisions and live more of a life from here, from truth.
Love that.
Yeah.
You're working on a new meditation series,
I
correct?
am.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Very, very excited. Yeah, that's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's been a real great passion of mine. Meditation's been such a big part of my journey. When I first started my very in-depth, you know, we talked about my healing process, you know, my lady that I was working with, she'd just have me sit for a period of time. She'd just say, go away and sit for 20 minutes with nothing. And it was really amazing, you know, when you ask yourself, how often do you actually sit when you're not eating, reading, speaking, on technology, doing something, thinking about something, and you just actually sit with yourself? Most people will say that's, oh, I don't know, when was the last time you guys just
Well, you're
sat
talking to
with
two big
yourself?
meditators over
So-
here,
Yeah,
so, you know, very different.
I'm trying to
yeah.
do that right now, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, but for most people, it's not something that they kind of will be very present with. So, and I also wanted to, you know, my theory is you should be able to meditate in the middle of Times Square. There are many wonderful different kinds of meditations out there, but very often, I think those moments when people need to make that connection and need to make that clarity is a lot of times when people are, you know, if people are in very busy environments or they're just about to step into situations where they really need to kind of have that clarity. I think people should be able to meditate anywhere. So I wanted to really devise a meditation series that gave people that ability just first of all learn how to meditate without anything, just to get used to sitting with themselves. And then we've developed a very beautiful series of guided meditations. And I'm very lucky I got to work with an incredible award-winning composer, Adam Zellkind, and he scored the whole music, which is very different. We've got something very unique to offer. And yeah, we're very, very excited about it. The meditations are all going to have different themes. We've taken some of those out already and done sort of live meditations, and they've been hugely received. The first one we're going to be doing is an Sonoran chakra clearing meditation, which is focused on working with the chakras to clear issues around sort of various areas of one's life that one may be experiencing blocks or problems in.
I'd like to cut those chakra
And,
cords.
Yes.
Well, where can
yeah.
people find you?
People can find me at my website, which is www.thespiritualowl.com, and Instagram at The Spiritual Owl with Love, and Facebook, The Spiritual Owl.
Nice. Well, thank
Yeah,
you so
thank
much
you
for
for
bringing your
And I
consciousness
have-
with us.
Thank you very much. And I have a little gift for all of you here
Oh.
that I wanted to bring. There is a little crystal here.
Oh, wow.
I have selenite for you, my
Thank
lovely.
you. Thank you so much.
There
Oh,
is
so beautiful.
copper
Thank
for
you
you, my
so
love,
much.
and amethyst for you, my
Oh,
lovely.
it's so beautiful.
You're very,
So
very
beautiful.
welcome.
Thank
It's a
you
little
so
offering
much.
Thank you
Much.
so much. You're
Thank
so
you.
beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
really
Stay tuned, you guys. We'll be right
appreciate
back.
that so much.
Thank you.